I'm going to talk about the passage from Exodus, but I just wanted to say a quick word about the parable. As I love the parables, but sometimes the early church has tinkered with them to the point where they actually stop making sense. So if you imagine yourself walking on a street, someone comes and says, "Come to this wedding banquet," and then you get cast out into outer darkness because you didn't have a wedding garment with you. Who carries a wedding garment while they're walking around on the street? I mean, I don't. I'm not ready for, I need special preparation. The whole parable's a little bit iffy. We can talk about that at further lengths. But I really want to get to the passage in Exodus because it's one of my favorite passages. I love it. But first, a little context. The people have just sinned. This is all before our reading. They've just sinned against God and Moses by worshiping a golden calf. Moses has gone up to a mountain and has gotten the 10 Commandments, and now he comes down, and when he finds out what the people have done, he gets super duper angry. He gets so angry that he takes these tablets that God has written on and smashes them to pieces. That's where the 10 Commandments were. And these tablets represented the covenant that God had made with the people. So basically what Moses is saying is that the people, by what they have done, have broken the covenant. So Moses is angry, but apparently God is also super duper angry. Now, before I continue, it's always good to be reminded that when we speak of God in many stories, including stories in the New Testament, but certainly ones in the Old Testament, we're talking more about a narrative character than the God who actually is, the God we actually worship. This narrative character can provide a wonderful icon through which to reflect upon the God who actually is, but it's hardly a fully and accurate description. So don't get caught up if my description of God seems a little irreverent. It's a description of the narrative character in the story. So anyways, back to the story. God tells Moses, "You can go lead this people to the land that I have spoken to you about, and my angel, my emissary, will guide you." So basically, God was originally going to be the guide of the people, but now he's really ticked off. And he doesn't want, I don't know if you've ever been like that, where you just want to give someone the silent treatment. Well, God is kind of like that here. He doesn't want to be with this people. He doesn't want to forsake them because of the little debate he's had with Moses. But he's not going to actually lead them himself. He's going to send somebody else to do this, an angel. And then God, midstream, kind of changes his mind and says, well, this is me adding to the text a bit, but that's actually not enough. I'm really pretty angry here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to destroy this people altogether, just wipe them out, and I'm going to give the promises that I made to Abraham to your children, Moses. And so you'll be the new Abraham, and all will be well. This is pretty drastic. Moses talks God down, and that brings us to today's reading. That's the context behind today's reading. So Moses has just changed God's mind about destroying all the people. And now Moses wants to change God's mind about not leading the people himself, the first statement. So it sort of comes back to the first thing. He wants God to be the leader of the people, not some anonymous spiritual entity. So some of the arguments that God uses, Moses, I have this dyslexic thing where I sometimes switch words around, so it can get kind of confusing. Bear with me. Moses tells God, this is your people. Therefore, it's only right that you lead them, not some spiritual anonymous entity. And it appears that God says, yeah, that's hard to argue with, and he's convinced, and he almost immediately changes his mind. And he says to Moses, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." My presence will go with Moses and with the people, and God and God's self will now lead the people and be with the people. Now, the word presence is the Hebrew word for face. Face. And the face in Hebrew thinking, and really in modern thinking too, is the aspect of our physical self that most adequately conveys ourself to the world. Our eyes are part of our face expressions. We have evolved as a species that is really good at identifying different faces. Some animals don't have that. So for us, you really know somebody by their face. You identify and recognize, oh, I'm talking to this person and not this person. So God says to Moses that he's going to travel with the people, even though the people have deeply disappointed him. And Moses, as if to sort of seal the deal, says, if your presence will not go with us, do not carry us up from here. It's a remarkable statement. In other words, I want it all or nothing. I want you or nothing. We don't need the promised land. We don't need nothing. It's all garbage without you. We need you, God. All that we want, the promised land, all our work and labor, everything means nothing if God is not actually with us. And then Moses goes on to say, the only thing that makes us a unique, special people, the only thing that makes us different from any other people is the presence, the face of God. That's the only thing. And there's a deep need, I think, in humans, in individuals and in communities, to feel different and often feel better than other individuals and communities. And the need to feel better is not healthy. It leads to self-righteousness and contempt and all sorts of bad things. But that is a twisted idea of something that is basically fundamentally human. We all need to feel special and unique. And the thing is, we are special and unique. Now, we as a people, as Anglicans, are probably no more or less righteous than anybody else. Being better than others is not what makes us special. Our liturgy, I think, is beautiful. I love the liturgy of the Anglican Church, but in the final analysis, that's not enough to make us special really either. The only thing that makes our liturgy special, or any Christian church's liturgy special for that matter, is the presence of the Lord embedded within it. So without that, we're wasting our time. The things that makes us special is not us. It's the Lord with us. So anyways, the Lord agrees with Moses, and the matter is settled. God will not destroy the people, and God will lead the people in God's self, not some nameless surrogate. God will be with the people. So now Moses has dealt with all the necessary business. He's sort of ironed that all out with God, and God has changed his mind. And he's made it clear that serving God without the face, without the presence of God, is highly undesirable, to the point that anything else you do is really like, who needs it? The promised land without God's presence, who needs it? All the great accomplishments without God's presence, who needs it? It's not important. And very often what we do is important. What we do in the church can be very important. What we do in our jobs and in our families can be very important. But I think sometimes we can make a mistake and get caught up in the doing and miss out on the being, if you will, of the church. That is, the being with God, seeking God's faith, not just so that God can do something for you, but so that you can simply be with God. And so now Moses turns to his own desire. He's dealt with the nation, and now he wants to know God better. He has this desire personally to see God's face. And so he asks God, please show me your glory. Please let me see you in your fullness. And God responds that he will show Moses his goodness, and he will proclaim his sacred name. But he also says, you cannot see my face. So there's a little bit of a paradox going on here, because no one can actually see me and live. And this is an ancient idea mentioned several times in the Bible, that if you actually see God in all vividness and reality, you will die. And it's actually, the paradox is even clearer because it says, see God's face. And so it's the word face is kind of linked here. Without the face accompanying them, it all means nothing, but if you actually see the face, you're going to die. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. The face is that which is always hidden. It's a little bit of a mysticism here, I think. Always hidden, yet always with, always accompanying. And if it does not accompany us, it means nothing. But if, on the other hand, if we see the face, we'll die. So we remain always with and not visible. I think this is, while it might sound a little weird, it corresponds to our experience pretty closely, right? We feel God's presence, but no one that I've met has claimed to actually see God, right? It's a different kind of sensing of God's presence. But that being said, it's interesting that God is all about life abundant. And in this story, there's an interesting relationship between the God of life and the God of death. They are connected. To see God's face is to die, but to be without God is also to die. So you have to be with this God that to see is to die. I have often believed that the mystery of death and the mystery of God are the two biggest mysteries I think humans have to wrestle with, and ultimately they are connected. And when you unravel one, you unravel the other. So this is a story that calls us back to God, not just the doings and the activities and the actions and deeds of God, not just what God can do for us, which is all important and wonderful, but calling back to God as a relational connection to God. The things we do, again, are fine and sometimes even wonderful and great. But what makes them really great is often not the deeds themselves, but the why behind the deeds or the who behind the deeds. We do them because of our connection with the face of God. And there's an interesting relationship between our connection with the face of God and our connection with the face of each other. I believe that we learn from one to do better by the other. So if we're connected to God and we are honest in our relationship with God, that spills over in our relationship with your face and your face and your face, right? We get to know each other better. The same rules, if you will, the same principles of a relationship with God apply to a relationship with each other. If we're just looking for stuff that I can get from you, if you're just a taskmaster, somebody who's going to accomplish X, Y, Z, rather than someone I can hang out with and enjoy just for the joy of your presence, it's the same thing as with God, right? Same thing with us. What I'm looking for is not just, the service is great, but if I don't have connection, it's lonely, it's isolating, the work can actually become a problem. So let us seek the face of God. Let us seek the face of each other. Really seek it, look for it, and enjoy it and savor it like fine wine. And may the presence of the other, both the divine other and the human other, and the canine other and the other others that we can think about, may they accompany us on our journey all the way to the end. And may the divine and mortal end up merging in the glory of the coming kingdom. Amen.